funny blip on our screen. Dwayne, are we still on air?
I saw it. It was a countdown.
Yes, I forgot to punch live. So
Oh,
Oh, okay. Should we start over?
yeah, go ahead. Start over.
Okay.
like from the very beginning.
Oh, just introduce Michelle and then carry on.
Okay. Okay, so this is Michelle North, and many of you may know Kish North. You're married to Kish, and you've been so gracious as to come on.
Thank you.
As we do a lot of election integrity canvassing and work, we're very interested in what other states are doing, what's happening. And your story is very compelling in that you moved here in 2015, and we want you to pick up where you started, but you're still receiving ballots.
Yes, I moved out here in 2015. And when I moved out here, I wasn't seeing any ballots come to me. It didn't really start coming until about 2020. And I'll just show you my primary election book that they sent me. This was sent to me in May, and I did get them last year and the year before, but I just kind of let it go and it didn't bother me. And then this year I'm like, what are they doing? Like, this is wrong. I've been gone for over 10 years.
Wow.
And here's my election. So this came later. Of course, they send the little book first, and then I just covered up my address. And I have all my official ballots, and I have until June 2nd to turn everything in. And I just find it really odd. And last night I did some investigating, and I found, because I wanted to know, how am I registered? What party do they have me down as? Because I never voted in California ever. And so, but I do remember signing up. When I was going to college, I was approached and I ended up signing up. And so anyways, I ended up going to voter status last night, voterstatus.california.gov. And I grabbed my old California ID because I couldn't get into there with just my name and my social. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go find my California ID, which I still have. And I put it in there, and still it was not finding me. And then I just did all these things. And then finally it found me. And luckily it had me down as a Republican. And so I was able to go in there and check the past elections, how I voted. And it had back until 2020. So that's why I'm saying, like, when I first moved out here, I didn't see any ballots until later on. And because I wanted to know, is somebody voting in my spot if I don't send this in? Are they making up ballots? Yeah. But luckily,
was there
there wasn't anything. It says blank. It says the date that the ballots were mailed out to me, and everything else is blank, like no return, that I didn't return anything.
Uh-huh.
So that's a good.
That part's good.
Right.
Yeah.
But why am I getting this, and why is it going to that the ballots were registered to my childhood home, and I lived there till I was 19 years old. And from 19 till I was 44, because we moved out here when I was 44, I lived in Orange County. And so I just find that really weird, because you think that I would get an Orange County ballot instead of a Los Angeles ballot.
This just shows how messed up the voter rolls are. Like, right? That's a huge concern.
Right.
It really does. And I think that's true for probably every state in the union, likely particularly California. Mm-hmm. But it's interesting to me that as a Republican, you got a ballot.
Right.
Off the top of my head, you would think that, well, Democrats are the ones that are cheating, and they're only going to do that mm-hmm. with Democrats. But it's interesting to note that as a Republican, you're getting them as well.
So you mentioned you're getting the primary ballots. I'm assuming you're getting the general ballots as well, like in November?
Yes. And then when I went on the website last night, it was able to show me the general election too, for since 2020. And it says that they mailed it out to me.
Wow.
Yep. And I do.
Have you made any attempts to contact them or inform them that you're getting ballots and that you moved, or?
No, no. And it's funny because all my family out there, every time I'm like, hey, look, I can still vote, I'll call them up and they're like, vote, just vote. No one needs voter ID out here.
Yeah.
Like, with my luck, I'd be put in prison or something.
Yeah, I don't think I'd recommend that,
I know.
just to cover yourself, and
Right, right.
you never know. But
No,
I
I
actually have been following the news lately. I don't know if you've heard this, but there are a group of Republicans that are outside the state, and since they don't require ID or anything of that nature, they're going to go to California and vote.
for Spencer Pratt.
People are trying to get a movement going as Republicans to go out there and just vote.
Play their game.
Just show up and vote.
Right, right. I keep seeing that on the internet. I'm seeing it on Facebook, Instagram. Everybody's rooting for Spencer Pratt out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. People are saying that they're going to go vote for him because it's time to clean up Los Angeles. It does not look the same. My family lives very close to there, and the are horrible. When Orange County lived right next to Spencer comes from the Hills, which is, I don't know if you guys have heard of the Hills, the reality TV show that he was on, which kind of made him famous with his wife, Spencer Pratt.
I didn't know about that.
One of his co-stars, Adrena Patridge, we lived right next door to her. Her family out. So I'm a big Spencer Pratt fan.
I'm assuming he's a Republican. He's a Republican.
He says that he's not a pity. He won't say. He says that he's neither party. He's all about cleaning up the streets of Los Angeles. So he hasn't come out to say which party he is.
Well, that's
but his family.
And I think I'm hoping that more and more people look beyond party affiliation and just do what's right.
Right.
And here's a case that sounds like somebody's doing that.
Yes.
I'm starting to feel like that here.
Me too.
That the party is not representative of who I am here in Utah, the Republicans, and that we really don't have a voice.
Nope.
And I think people everywhere, it sounds like, might be having a similar point of view.
Yes, I agree.
I think that, I just ran for office, and I don't feel like, I feel like the party's really fractured here. I feel like, and this actually kind of leads into our second conversation that we'll have after you're on, but there's 3 or 4 different fractions of the Republican Party that do not think similarly. And it's almost as though those parties or those people should be, there's no way to unite them that we can see.
Right.
And I think we're hoping to try to do that, but at times it seems impossible.
Right. I think it's because our party's been infiltrated. I really do.
I do too. And then the establishment here and the rhinos that we have, it's very difficult to feel like you have a real home.
Right.
Thomas Massey, he's one of Trump's biggest critics.
Yes.
And the primary election was yesterday.
That's right. He lost.
Unfortunately, he lost.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just going on everywhere. And then Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz. It's like you could see the division in the parties. And the establishment does not want people who are speaking out against them. And they'll go dig up their past or do something to where they'll have a smear campaign and then that person is kind of out.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Michelle, I think, and I don't know what your opinion about it is, but if you're not 100% Trump, they're going to oust you. Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene, they both were huge Trump supporters 90% of the time.
In the first term.
And even into the second. But when they diverged on 1 or 2 issues, i.e. the Epstein files, for example, they were blackballed by Trump. And I'm not here to bash Trump. I think he's done a lot of really good things. But I don't think that he should be able to wield that kind of power either, to where he can, if people don't
Yeah.
100% believe with him that they're out.
Yeah. I don't think that he did it because of they don't believe in him anymore. I think it's because of the things that she said and how harsh she was and how she was just like constantly attacking him. And so, Trump with his, temperament and just how he is, his mannerisms, everything, he just came out to defend himself, I think. But yeah, Marjorie Taylor Greene and all of them, I don't understand. Well, I guess I could understand about the Epstein files and all that, but I don't know. I just, like you said, there's a lot of division, a lot of good points and a lot of ridiculous points of why people just like leave and fall away. And then they always go out bashing and bad mouthing, and no one could ever just leave.
That's right. Hey, would you be open to maybe trying to see if we can get a caller to call in
Sure.
and see? Yeah. So let's take a few calls, Dwayne, if we can. And the number's 385-899. What's that?
2134.
2134.
As soon as somebody calls in, we have a couple of people that have told me they're going to call in. I got Monica Wilbur, I got Kay Sanderson. When they come in, I'll pop up here. Okay.
All right. Well, yeah, they'll probably call in a bit later. But if anybody wants to call in and ask Michelle or us any questions, please call that number. It's on the screen, and we're going to try that out and see how it works. But so, do you have any intention of trying to contact them down there, Michelle, to see what they say, or just going to see if it falls off? Or
I can. Maybe I will pick up the phone and call. But I just, as long as I don't vote, I kind of feel like, it's okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah. No doubt.
I've never voted in their elections at all because I don't want to get in trouble.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't recommend it living in Utah for sure. You'd be the one person they isolated, right? And
exactly.
decided to prosecute and make an example of. Right. A Republican, no less.
Michelle,
right?
Do you know about the work that we've done on election integrity? Have you seen
a little bit. My husband was telling me, my husband's the one that's really, more out there. He runs Utah Patriots, and I'm just kind of quiet in the background. But a little bit.
Well, could we share with you?
Sure, please.
Go ahead, or me?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So the I guess the guess or how it started was that we would see from the news that there's a lot of election fraud, and this was back like 2020. And so what Steve did was he got a copy of the NCOA data, which is the National Change of Address from the post office. Mm-hmm. And then he obtained the Utah voter rolls, specifically in the county here in Utah. And he had a company called Peachtree.
That's right.
Use AI to filter out all of the voters who moved out of the county but still voted in the primary or general election. And then he compiled this list, and what we've done is we've gone out canvassing, just door knocking, and trying to find more about the person or the voter that lives there. If that voter lives there, if they moved, what the new homeowner knows about the person, and just kind of trying to make a profile on each one of these cases to see if there's see what kind of fraud there is, because there's fraud, but we kind of want to know more. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been really interesting, and the fact that we were able to narrow it down using the AI techniques that they use. Our hit rate, or people that there was a problem with on the doors that we went to, of the people that actually answered, was at least 75%, where the person never lived there that is still voting from there. The homeowners do not know that
Wow.
person, that, that they may have lived there 20 years and they don't know a person that's voting from their house. We have found cases where people have died and are still voting. We found cases where people have moved and died voting in other states and still voting in Utah. And initially, this information was brought to the attention of Utah state legislators,
Mhm.
both the Senate and the House. And while they gave us, lip service that, oh, hey, we should really do something about this, make legislation, etc. In the end, when you walked out of their office, they wouldn't take any sort of action. They wouldn't return phone calls, emails, or anything. So being very frustrated, Sarah said, hey, why don't we just start a social media campaign and start just showing these cases. So when we initially started, we had the people sign affidavits
Mhm.
that they did not know the person voting. But Sarah said, let's actually
Wow.
try to get these on social media so we can get it to the people.
Because
And
the elected officials aren't doing anything. Like they know it's there.
they know
and
it's
they're
there and
not
they
doing
don't.
anything.
Yeah. So
Very frustrating.
Sarah, I have Kay Sanderson on the line. She has a question for you.
Okay.
Sarah, Kay, can you hear us?
Oh, yes, I can hear you. So I was calling in for the next segment. But this has been incredible. Thank you, Michelle. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And yeah, we do have a problem. Thank you.
Thank
We
you,
do.
Kay. We'll talk to you soon.
yeah, give us a call back when we move on. But and anybody else that wants to call in and ask a question, I know a lot of you are listening. A lot of you people that have been following what we're doing or listening, give us a call if you have a question and ask more of Michelle as to what's going on with her in the LA voting. And maybe Michelle, should organize some kind of an effort and all of us go down to LA County and vote.
No
And
voter
get,
ID required. They cannot ask you for your ID.
that
But
is so crazy.
have you guys talked to Sophie Anderson out here? And I
Oh
don't know.
yeah, uh-huh.
She is the one you can talk to about the voter fraud out here. She did a lot of work.
Well, when she was part of the Two Red Pills,
Yes.
I actually got involved with them early on
Mm-hmm.
and actually helped put together presentations that they were doing on a national front with the Mike Lindell group.
Yes.
And actually traveled with them, Sophie and Jen, to Missouri to do the presentation for Mike Lindell and the state of Utah. So
Yes.
very
Utah.
well aware of it. And even
Good.
then, Mike Lindell, by the way, who has been, man, just bastardized and rolled on and, canceled, and they've
Yes.
gone after his businesses and everything. And
It's still standing.
he has been at the forefront of this. And he says that Utah is the single worst state for voter fraud and corruption.
Yes.
It's
I agree.
almost untouchable here, the way it's handled.
And people are asleep. Everybody's asleep in their homes. They're all waiting for someone else to do the work.
Something very unique about Utah, some people may not know, is that we have a category of voting, and it was called withheld, but now it's called.
No, it's still called withheld.
Okay.
What happened is in Senate Bill 153 this year, they try to, when I say the legislators,
Mm-hmm.
they give it lip service, and they might come up with a bill that seemingly actually does something related to our elections to make them better, but actually make them worse. And in this case, in Utah, we have three categories of voters. We have public, private, and withheld. And the withheld category is a category that essentially no one can see. And that includes our Board of Canvassers, the people that certify our elections, cannot see as up to in Salt Lake County and Utah County, 40% of all votes they cannot see. So you tell me how you do a certification on something where you cannot see 40% of the data.
Wow.
But House Bill or Senate Bill 153 states that if you're in the private category, you have to re-register in that category, or your voter information will be made public. So it really did nothing because it didn't touch the withheld category.
So, but
Mhm.
Steve, wasn't it going to make all the withhelds in?
No, it doesn't even mention withheld. If you read the entirety of the bill, the category of withheld is not even mentioned.
Okay, so the only thing that's changed is that those private voters have to re-register.
The private ones.
Okay.
And so private voters, candidates can access private voter information,
And parties.
and the party officials and the board of canvassers. But you can't grant a request withheld, or anyone except the county clerks and the lieutenant governor's office can
Wow.
access the withheld, which is 40% of all votes.
And she's no help.
So that's no help at all.
No.
Really what they did is they changed the name of the category, essentially from private to at risk. So now we have public, at risk, and withheld. And that really does nothing, but the
No.
perception is by a lot of people, because they misunderstand and they're not educated enough to know, that they really did nothing. But seemingly out in the public, it's like, oh, we've done all these things to make it so much better, when in reality they haven't.
Right.
So
Well, thank you guys so much for everything that you've been doing, and I hope that your podcast gets out there and more people start waking up and start helping.
Thank you.
thank you for that, and we really appreciate you coming on, and we'd like to have you back on. We'd like to follow you and see if you
What I did.
continue to get these ballots that you shouldn't be getting. And I mean, that's crazy.
Or if you
It
have
is.
any updates with the party, like if you talk to the party or the county clerks, let us know and you
Okay.
can come share with everyone.
Okay, I will. I
It
will.
would be very interesting to have you maybe call or reach out to them and see what they say about it.
Right? How did they get my information? Right? How did they know where to send it?
Right. And especially the fact that it was your childhood home.
Right?
That far back, you know.
And I haven't lived there since I was 19, so there's been a lot of years in
Wow.
between. Mm-hmm.
And then another weird thing is that it just started happening. You started receiving the ballots around 2020 when
Yes. Mhm.
elections went crazy. So
Yeah, the whole COVID thing and the way elections were starting to be by mail more in every state, and yeah.
Yep. I wish I could dig further because I don't know why, but in my gut, I feel like because I didn't vote, I bet you somebody voted in my place and maybe they used my name, but it's just not showing on the internet. Because why else would they be doing this? California is known for cheating. California should be red. Where I used to live in OC, everybody out there is red.
Yeah, it's funny that everybody you talk to out there, or not everybody, but most are red, and yet the votes come in overwhelmingly blue.
It's because of cheating.
Yeah.
Or else Gavin Newsom wouldn't be in office right now. Or
Yeah.
Karen Basura. She would not Basura. I say it just like Spencer. Karen Bass. She
Karen
wouldn't be in
Bass.
office.
Yeah, there's a lady that she needs to be gone in a hurry. That's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day, but
It is.
that fire fiasco is unbelievable.
Oh yeah.
So, well, Michelle, thank you again very much, and tell Kish hi, and
I will. Thank you.
thank you, Michelle.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
you're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Man, that is crazy, Sarah, that it never ends.
Yeah.
I wonder if like they do a mass mailing, and only the Democrats are the ones sending the ballots back, and the Republicans
I could
go,
imagine that. And I could imagine that there's a lot of Democrats there's probably a higher percent of Democrats getting.
Are we
Getting them.
saying that they're more dishonest than Republicans?
Well, at least the Republicans in general admit that there's election fraud.
Yeah.
Who's the one denying it? Like
Well, it's funny how when Republicans win, then the Democrats say that there's election fraud. If you go back when Trump first won and all the statements by Hillary Clinton and all the
I think they
big name
said
Democrats.
there was foreign influence. Isn't that what they were saying?
That's
Not
part of it, yeah.
necessarily like actually cheating in the ballots.
I think they said there was a lot of it. In fact, they were against mail-in ballots when they lost.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they were against Dominion machines too. And they're all on record. It's all on video. If you're interested in seeing that, they said we can't have these machines. They can be manipulated. We shouldn't have mail-in ballots. So it's just a matter of convenience and what particular position you happen to be in at that time. So, well, should we move on to our next topic?
Let's move on.
So we want to talk about, and Sarah and I actually might have a little different idea of what the subject matter actually is. So I'm going to let her, because she is way more involved in this than I have been. I've been a little bit on the periphery, but she has a better understanding of what's going on. I'll let her explain what it is that we're trying to do with this.
Okay. So there's been a lot of drama in the Salt Lake County Republican Party. And there's a lot of he said, she said, they shouldn't have done this. Well, they did this, so we're going to do something. And what I am focused on, because I'm a leader in the party, are the bylaws. And the bylaws are basically a legal document that is between the members and the organization. And I think that's something that a lot of people forget. These are not just guidelines or recommendations on how to run our party. These bylaws give us our powers and our duties. And one side believes that we need to follow the rules, and then the other side interprets them differently.
Would you say it's just that, though, a matter of interpretation? Or is it truly somebody trying to circumvent the actual rules?
Well, I can't really answer that because it depends on, I don't see that the people all the time reading the bylaws.
Right.
Like, I don't read the bylaws in the meetings constantly, but at home I do.
Right.
So I can't say that they do or they don't.
Right.
Maybe they do and they have just different interpretation. I don't know. But on some parts, I believe, that is myself, not as the vice chair, I'm not speaking on behalf of the party. I believe that there are specific bylaws that are broken and there's no excuses for.
Mm-hmm. You know, I know people on essentially all sides of this issue. I believe by and large, they're all good people. And from my 36,000 foot view, kind of think that at least my interpretation of what I see is that people are seeing these rules in a different light. And it seems to me like there might be more common ground than is seen on the surface. And my personal view is I think that there can be some compromise, but I'm not sure. That's up to the people, and it takes all parties to do that, not just one side. But we'd love to hear. We know that there's several people listening in today, and we would love to hear from any and all sides about what they think is happening relative to. Now, I want to just go back really quick. There's more than one issue here, and it's, were the bylaws broken by the 8 ladies that were reprimanded or party positions taken away from? And then there's also that issue, did that really happen? And then also the issue of, was the meeting that was held to actually have these ladies on trial, was there a quorum essentially, or the adequate people present to actually hold that meeting? And I think right now, the pressing question is not so much were they kicked out, but they were kicked out in the wrong way if they were actually kicked out.
Yeah.
So is that correct?
That's correct. I'm just trying to strictly follow the bylaws. And the bylaws say, like for the quorum, that so the executive committee could remove an officer if there has to be a vote, there has to be a trial, due process. If that all happens, they can vote, and 2/3 of the members need to be there.
Okay, so I actually was at that meeting that night before they went into a private session. Was there a quorum that night?
No,
So do you have the actual numbers of total number of people there are, and then percentages that are needed?
yes.
And then how many were there that night?
Okay, so there are 23 members of the executive committee, and you can go and read the membership for yourself. Just go to the Salt Lake or the slcogop.com bylaws committee, and then click on that, and you could download the full PDF of our Salt Lake County bylaws. On page 13, so Article 4, Executive Committee, Section 1, Membership, the members are the 4 party officers, 6 region chairs, and the elected Senate chairs. So altogether, there are 23 members. In order for the executive committee to remove somebody, 2/3 of the members need to vote. And so that would be 2/3 of the 23 is 15.33. You can't round down, because 15 and 1/3 of a person, you don't count that as 15.
No, you wouldn't.
That's 16.
Yeah.
So there's one, I think, misinterpretation that some people have.
So total of 23, need 16. How many were actually there that night?
4, 10.
Steve and Sarah,
Yeah.
I have Monica on the line. Monica, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Go ahead.
Okay, I
Hey,
didn't mean to
Monica.
interrupt. I think, hi, how are you guys doing today?
Very
Hey, how are
good.
you?
Good,
Thanks for
good.
calling in.
You were talking, yeah, thanks. You guys were talking about the quorum and how there weren't enough. I think, Sarah, you were saying that you needed a full 16 for the
Yes,
quorum.
I didn't have those numbers, but I just counted them, and I'm counting 15. There were 15 members.
15 members. And was that quorum, was that number steady throughout the entire, 3-4 hour executive session, or did it go down at one point?
So there were actually more than 15 in the beginning. I left, and because this was executive session, I am not going to disclose who else left. But there were more members who left, and At the time of one of the trials, the person who was accused, who was going to be voted on, said, "I am going to leave." And she left the premises with her lawyer. And that is what broke the quorum. And then the executive committee went into deliberations.
Oh, wow. See, then that's just one of what I would say many violations of the bylaws that I think we witnessed during this whole process. If you lose quorum, that pretty much ends everything at that point. And I can't imagine continuing to proceed and thinking that any sort of conclusions from that meeting would be anything but null and void. I mean, that is without quorum, you really can't be making decisions, and that, of course, is all predicated on the idea that you got to that quorum, I think, legitimately in the first place. And I don't know if your listeners know, I was one of the 8 who was accused, what I would consider wrongfully accused, since
I appreciate you disclosing that.
Yeah, the accusation. So I'm coming at it from a bias, right? I'm one of those
Sure.
people who has been at the receiving end of this situation. And I think what I wanted to really call in and just kind of make the point is, in order to get to the point of a trial, you have to do things in a certain way, in a certain order. And that was my biggest concern was, fine, if you disagree with something I'm doing, I don't have a problem with that as long as the rules apply fairly and you are applying them as written, not kind of with a wild interpretation. And I was told, everybody was told by Chair Mike Carey that this was going to be a Robert's Rules trial. Okay. Well, aside from the fact that there is a mechanism in the bylaws for handling standards of conduct complaints or any sort of like behavioral complaints. So, first you kind of ignore that the bylaws actually have a process and you go around them and say you're going to use Robert's Rules. And for people who might not be aware, if you have a process in the bylaws, you got to follow that process first. Only when the bylaws are silent on something can you go outside the bylaws and resort to Robert's Rules. And in this case, Mike Carey went straight to Robert's Rules and even then didn't follow them. So that's you're supposed to give the people an investigation. It's supposed to be an impartial body that tries.
Can you speak more on that? That's a big key right there. Was it an impartial body?
Say that again. What was that?
Yeah, could you speak on that part right there? The judge, jury, executioner. Was there an impartial body?
Yeah. No, absolutely not. And this is why, I've seen this kind of kangaroo court happen before. We saw it happen with Natalie Klein at the State Board of Education. I was very closely involved with every single time somebody came up with an accusation against her. And some of these accusations were from her own board members. And in that case, the accuser should not be involved in the hearing or trying process whatsoever. And according to Robert's Rules, when you have an accusation of this type, if you don't already have a provision in the bylaws for a body to address these types of accusations, the whatever your body is, your administrative body or the governing body, whatever it is that's supposed to be saying, okay, we need to try these facts, they need to actually appoint an impartial body. And Robert's Rules is very specific. It says that the point of a trial or a hearing like this is to try to come to the truth. It's not the body that is trying you is basically trying to also accuse you and prove its point. It's just trying to sort through the facts between two different parties. You're supposed to have representation. Now, that representation can come from the body that's trying you, or at least that's giving that trial. But you also have the right to have your own representation, and the body can't deny you that. When I got my letter from Chair Mike Carey, it said, you can have representation from the body, or when you come to your trial, we can allow you to pick somebody to defend you. Okay, like, look at this. Look at how unfair that is, right? I don't get to choose my own lawyer. And even then, I'm not even sure if the body that's trying me and accusing me is going to let me have the lawyer I want. That's ridiculous. Like, that gives me no time to prepare. And so a proper defense, an adequate defense. And also, according to Robert's rules, you are supposed to have an investigation of facts. There was never an investigation. There is no record of any investigation that the Salt Lake County GOP Executive Committee held. Zero. I wasn't ever asked to come forth with my evidence, my proof. Mike Carey simply said, well, you guys wrote a letter, and that letter itself is proof of your guilt. Well, no, it's not. It's absolutely not, because it doesn't prove his point, which was that we caused damage to the good name of the party. Like, there's no evidence. He's never produced any evidence of that claim, and that letter itself is not proof of that claim. So if you can see kind of where this is going, like the whole evidentiary chain of custody and the due process was just simply tainted from the very beginning. You can't be tried by your accusers.
Another way that it could be argued, that I've heard that it's tainted, is that there was a lot of information going to the executive committee that would taint them, like comments or like any posts, social media posts that would influence them how to think.
Sure, and here's something I really want to point out. There were 8 of us who signed our names to that letter. One of the individuals was Tracy Halverson. Tracy's been involved in other legal matters concerning the party, not particularly or related to this. There may be some tangential, crossover, but this was a separate issue. When we signed the letter, and I'll speak for myself, but I tend to think that I'm not the only one here. When I signed that letter, I was concerned about the fact that the Salt Lake County GOP, which has the executive committee in particular, it's an administrative body. Mike Carey keeps referring to it as a governing body, but it's an administrative body. Its tasks are very clearly enumerated and limited in the bylaws. And nowhere in its duties or powers does it say that it can speak for the whole Salt Lake County GOP by endorsing in non-partisan races. It just is not one of the powers that's listed. Anyone can go look it up. I think there's like 10 or 12 things they can do. It's none of those things. And so when the Salt Lake County GOP Executive Committee took that action, we had a concern. We signed the letter, but we have a lot of people who are like, they're trying to sue the party. They're trying to sue the party. Well, Tracy Halverson did initiate a RICO lawsuit, but it has nothing really to do with any of the rest of us, besides the fact that we might have been injured parties and signed on to the class action lawsuit. I don't think all of us did. I know, as a former candidate for the State Board of Education, I saw election anomalies in my race. And I actually recorded some of those anomalies, and they were pretty egregious. People who've seen them are like, what happened to you at convention? Well, that's a totally different story, and it's a good story, but it's a crazy one at the same time. My point being is that they were making false accusations about us wanting to throw everybody in jail. Well, We simply pointed to the statute that we thought was being broken. Clearly, no one is in jail. If that was the penalty for that statute, you know, and if these people, if someone had found enough evidence to try them, or even tried to find enough evidence to try them along these lines, you know, nobody goes to jail in Utah. Nobody goes to jail in Utah, like, for anything. And it's not like child molesters don't go to jail. Nobody goes to jail in Utah. You have to, like, you know, I think, you know, hijack a school bus, run over a family of puppies and children, and, you know, and then, you know, crash into a swig, you know, and then people get offended at that point, and they're like, oh no, you know, you really did something bad. But the point wasn't that. The point was to say, and we never said, please throw these people in jail. It's ridiculous. The letter said, this is where we think a violation took place, and this is what the law says is allowed. And I don't even think we mentioned incarceration, and I'm 100% sure we didn't. It just says, here are some options.
Well, that would be a criminal trial, not a civil trial, to actually get jail time. But one of the things that caught my ear when you were speaking just now was having a trial by your accusers. That in and of itself is inherently wrong. And
oh, yeah.
I'm sure that there was a lot of rules that were broken, it seems like, but that alone, for me, seems like a major violation of rights to be tried by those that you are accusing of doing something that they shouldn't be doing. And I had not really thought of that angle until you mentioned it in this case, but that's exactly what happened. And I want to, in the interest of time, we've got a couple other callers that have been waiting on the line, and we'd like to get to them, but I would also like to invite anyone that has opposing views of what's being discussed today and what comments have been made to please call in. And the number can be seen on our screen, and I'll be damned if I can read it because it's so small, but it's 385-899-2134 is the live call-in number. And I would invite anyone else that may have been on the committee that day that voted to relieve these women of their positions to call in and explain their point of view on it. And boy, Monica, we thank you so much for taking the time to call in, but we'd like to move on to our next caller just in the interest of time. I think, so thank you again very much. And we'd like to maybe go to Kay, Dwayne.
Coming right up. Thanks, Monica.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you, guys.
Hello, how are you? Kay, are you there? Dwayne, are we having a problem with Kay's feed for some reason? Come on, man behind the curtain, Mr. Wizard of Oz. So that's really interesting. She had a lot to say. Clearly, you know, her opinion is biased, as she is one that was ousted. But I'd like to invite those that have a differing viewpoint to call in as well and express theirs.
I think the part that what I was listening, what really caught me was, and some people don't see this, is that like in a trial, if somebody is being accused of a serious crime, even though that person, like everybody kind of knows that person did the crime, there's still a lot of information that the judge doesn't present in court, or the prosecutors, defendant, whoever, they don't present that in court because it will taint, like it's something separate other than what's pertaining to that case. Like the prosecutor, they can't go and say, oh, and this person did this 5 years ago.
Right.
It will be
It's not relevant to the case, really.
Yeah.
That's right.
Steve,
Do we have
Sarah?
Kay?
Kay opted to let Michael Clara talk. So
Okay,
we got-
let's go with Michael. Michael, how are you today? Hello,
Michael, can you hear
Michael.
us?
I can hear you, but we can't hear Michael.
Hang on.
And again, I would invite anyone else that has a differing viewpoint to please call in, and we'd like to hear your thoughts and your rationale for everything that's going on with this case. Please give us a call. Dwayne, do we have Michael on yet? Apparently we're having some
I'm working the lines. I'm working the lines. Hang on just a second.
Okay, so Mr. Wizard of Oz is working behind the lines. It's really a complicated issue to me because for me, the more pressing thing right now is whether this meeting should have been held at all. Not throwing guilt and innocence aside completely, you've got to have the right people in attendance, the right number of people in attendance for it to happen at all. And it doesn't sound like there were. Now, I would like to hear, Sarah's got her records and
Okay,
her
I have
numbers
Michael.
on.
Go ahead, Michael.
All right, I can hear you.
Hi,
Hang on.
Michael.
There we go.
Okay. Hello, Michael.
Yep, this is Michael. I can hear you.
Hi, how are you today?
Just fine.
What's on your mind, Michael?
So I wanted to point out, I had posted information on social media. I was critical of the way Mike Carey had handled this, but I got to tell you first, I was the GOP nominee for the Utah State Board of Education in District 5. And last week, I realized that I had been blocked from my access to the candidate portal and to the Facebook page. And then I was told that Mike Carey had said that he blocked me basically in retaliation because I had posted negative things about him on social media. So I sent an email to Mike Carey and the executive committee and said, look, I'm the candidate. You can't block me from things. And if you don't restore my ability to access the portal and the Facebook, and I wanted the Facebook access because I can see events for the GOP party on the county level. And I said, if you don't restore those, I'll just withdraw my candidacy as the GOP nominee. Well, they did restore in quick, really quickly gave me new credentials. The secretary did, so I could get on the portal. But he said, Mike Carey says in an email, I'm not restoring your Facebook because you violated the standard of conduct and the bylaws. And my first reaction was, but you can't make that determination if I violated the standards of conduct, but then he answers that question in the next sentence. He says, and I filed an ethics complaint against you, which to me, it's like, okay, fine. If you filed an ethics complaint, then go through the process, but you can't start punishing me for things just because I was critical of you. And I did withdraw my candidacy on the state school board as a GOP nominee because I can't run a campaign now that he's announced to 50 people and then some of them posted it on social media that I have an ethics complaint against me. So my point is that if you criticize, so Sarah, if he follows suit, he's going to come after you next because you're doing a podcast questioning things about the process, which it's our right to do. And he shouldn't he should not have retaliated against me as a candidate. But this is the kind of operation he's.
Michael, I just want to chime in with the standard of comment part with the bylaws. So That is under Article 5, Section 3, Ethics Committee, F2. It says, the committee shall be the exclusive point of contact for members of the party to make reports or claims of violations of the standard of conduct. So the process that you were referring to, in order to make to have like a disciplinary action, it needs to go through the whole process instead of just saying, you broke this bylaw, so I'm going to discipline you this way.
Correct. And let me say, I'm a retired police officer. I was a mayor of a small town in Texas. I was on the school board here in Salt Lake City. I understand due process. I understand how people are accused of things and that we have to give them their rights. I've been accused of things multiple times. I've also been on the other side where I sat in judgment of people being accused. And this is a very simple process that we have here in the bylaws. And like you're pointing out, it just says if you violate the standard of conduct, and I think it uses the word the people that can look into that are the executive committee of the GOP here on the county level, and it's to remain confidential. And the reason that it's to remain confidential, I don't think it says it in the bylaws, but the idea is in the event that the accusations are unfounded, you don't want to, and it does say this in the bylaws, you don't want to hurt somebody's character and reputation with an accusation that's unfounded. Therefore, if an accusation is put forward that they violated the standard of conduct, then the ethics committee conducts those investigations in confidence. And then if they do determine that they're sustained, then they kick it over to the executive committee. But in this case, what Mike Carey does with me is it's just a form of retaliation because I questioned the process that he followed on social media, that he's going to retaliate against me and hurt my character and reputation as a candidate. And so my response is, you know what, I'm not going to let you manipulate me, and I'm not going to be subjected, as a victim to your kind of bullying. So I'll just withdraw. And then now you don't have anything over me. And you can go ahead and do your ethics complaint. And by the way, then the following day, after he realizes that I looked into this and had people ask members of the ethics committee, where's that complaint and where is it at in the process, he has to admit, oh, I haven't filed a complaint yet. So
this is very interesting, and it's a compelling story, and it seems to be establishing a pattern on several issues. And again, I want to be fair on this podcast, and I know that Sarah does too. And I would invite Mike Carey or anyone else that's been involved in these matters on the executive committee to call in and express your point of view. We've given the number out several times, and we invite you again to do this. Michael, we thank you so much. Do you have any more questions for Michael?
I have one more part that I want to share of the bylaws.
Okay.
I'm just here to share the bylaws. So Article 5F5, this is what Michael was referring to. The committee's jurisdiction is the standard of conduct in the party bylaws. So that's the ethics committee.
Okay. Well, Michael, thank you very much for calling in and sharing that story with us. We appreciate it. And I'm sorry to hear that you had to drop out of your race. And it's going to be interesting to see where all this ends up. Apparently, we have a couple more callers on the line. It looks like Kay might be back. Dwayne, do we have Kay on the line? Dwayne, do we have Kay on the line, please?
Thank you, Michael, for coming on, by the way.
Yes. Apparently, we've got some callers on the line, but there's...
We have Kay back. Go
Okay,
ahead, Kay. Say hello.
Hi, Kay. Let's put Kay on. How are you, Kay?
Hi. Okay, can you hear me okay?
I
Yes,
can hear you.
Can you hear me? Okay,
we
great.
sure can. What's
for
on your mind
having me on.
today?
I think I have kind of an interesting perspective with everything that is happening here because myself and Laurel Setzer were on the executive committee. So I was elected to the Senate as a Senate district chair for 17 and she was for 14. And before I took that position, and I think I shared a slide with Sarah, and it is one that talks about the rights and duties of the Senate district chairs. So before I decided to run for that, I wanted to see what all it entailed. And so if she's got that slide, it just kind of talks about our rights and duties as members of the Senate
Well,
district.
not sure what one that is.
Rights and duties.
We have a couple. There was a lot of different
In the
emails.
background.
Go to your email.
Okay. Well, anyway, what the situation that is concerning, can you hear me okay? Because I'm
Yeah,
hearing a
go
lot of
ahead and speak to it and we'll look for that slide.
Kay, is it?
So,
Hold on, Kay. So that we could share it, could you tell us what you labeled the email that you want us to share?
I think it said rights and duties of the Senate district chair. So I think I sent you 3 and it was one of those.
We have page 1, page 2,
Okay,
page 3, or slides
Executive
for
committee.
podcast.
And
No, it's-
executive committee, 6-factor test.
It's the other one. Yeah, well, I should have labeled them better. But the
Yeah, why
bottom
don't
line
you
is
just
that
why don't you
I
just go ahead and speak to it? Why don't you go ahead and lay it out for our
Okay.
listeners what those what that entails? We have so many documents, we're not sure which one it is.
Right. That's okay. Sorry. There's a delay, and so I apologize for that. But anyway, when you run for Senate district chair, and by the way, we are going to have some of those seats, my seat, Laurel's seat, and another seat that Mike has failed to fill since last November. And that's going to be at that meeting on May 30th. I would encourage anybody who lives in those Senate districts to run for that position. But when I read that, it said basically you guys are in charge of like budgetary things. You're in charge of organizing caucus. You're in charge of Lincoln Day dinners. You're in charge. It was kind of like a party planning committee, an organizational party type thing. And I'm like, that is perfect for me. Anyway, I ran for that. So imagine my surprise in September when we get an email saying, oh, by the way, we're going to discuss, I got it in August actually, August, and we're going to discuss endorsing candidates in municipal elections. And I'm like, what? That is very concerning to me. And so, but it said, we're going to discuss it. So I thought that would be okay. Let's discuss it. But then we got an email 3 days before the meeting saying, be prepared to vote on endorsements in municipal elections. Well, I have a big problem with that. I don't even live in those municipalities. This is not something that the party has done. I think in 100 years, it's been done one time under Chris Knoll. And he actually said online, I should never have done that. I should have left it to the delegates. You know, we should not be getting involved. We've talked to parliamentarians. We've talked to past chairs that have said the party has not been involved in endorsing in nonpartisan municipal elections. So I was very alarmed by that. Somebody could consider that election interference. And let's say we had 2 Republicans running, even as a Republican and Democrat, and all of a sudden this little group of 23 people is going to throw the whole weight of the Salt Lake County GOP behind one candidate over another. And especially when there were 2 Republicans. So, and at that time of that meeting, there were some of those. But the bottom line is this is not something I signed up for. It's not something we should be involved in. Let's leave that to the municipalities themselves. Let them run their own elections. Our state code said we endorse after convention. They did not have conventions on those municipal races. So that's the beginning of it. So I expressed my concerns about doing that. And I know Tracy Halverson wrote a letter saying, hey, we shouldn't be doing this. We're trying to protect the party. That's the whole point. We have to protect the party from doing something we shouldn't be doing. And my question to the executive committee is, why are we being asked to do this? This makes no sense. That's not what our rights and duties tell us that we are to be involved in. Well, they went ahead and luckily Sarah made some changes to it, but they still did make an endorsement of Cindy Sharkey. So the next day.
So wait a second. Hold on with that thought. Okay, hang on with that thought 1 second. I want to understand this, what you just said entirely. Was that, okay, first I want to know who suggested that this endorsement be made for Sharkey, and then I want to know if the endorsement actually happened.
So there were, I think, 4 or 5 candidates that they wanted us to endorse, and I can't even remember all of them. There was one from Harriman, one from Riverton, one from Sandy. There were different.
Yeah, but what actually happened?
They requested it, or who brought it up?
So you don't know who initially had the suggestion that we endorsed anyone?
Well, I have what I think caused it, but I can't speak for exactly what the conversation was, but it seemed like we were trying to prop up some establishment preferred candidates, and they were wanting us to use the weight of the Salt Lake County GOP to do that. And I wanted
who is we?
I wanted no part of that.
We. I just want to clarify for everyone and myself, quite honestly, just who is we, who actually suggested that this be done. Secondly, I'm interested to know, as many of our listeners likely are, were these endorsements actually made?
Do you want me to speak to this?
The first I knew about it was in August, when we got a letter. It was kind of like our call to meeting letter saying that we're going to discuss making endorsements in municipal elections. That's the first I'd heard of it. Okay, so that was put out by Emily Swanson, the secretary.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, at that point, I was like, I don't want any part of that. So I thought, well, we're going to discuss it. I'll explain my concerns. But then 3 days before the actual meeting, we got another email from Emily Swanson, the secretary, saying you are going to be asked to vote on endorsing at the meeting. So that's when I took it upon myself to write a letter, and I sent that to Sarah. It was my letter to the group explaining why are we being asked to do this? We shouldn't be doing this. This hasn't been done. I've even heard Mike Carey say it was standard procedure. That's a lie. Like I said, it's happened one other time. But again, which I tried to tell the people in the committee, the executive committee, I wrote them all a letter. I emailed it to them. I handed it out to them and said, this was before the vote. And I said, we shouldn't be doing this. Okay. There was a lot of discussion because in 3 of those cases, we were going to pit a Republican versus a Republican. Luckily, Sarah came up with a compromise and said, let's not endorse on those, but we went ahead and voted to endorse in Cindy Sharkey's race. She was running against a Democrat. Of course, I voted no, and a few other people voted no, but the majority said, yes, we're going to throw the weight of the Salt Lake County GOP behind Cindy Sharkey. I was very disappointed by that because, again, that puts us at risk. What if her opponent, Monica, says, hey, according to Utah election law, you're supposed to only endorse people coming through convention. That's my understanding of it as I read the code. So anyway, I want it out, and I signed an allegation letter saying, hey, what has happened here appears that it could be considered election interference. That's not my call to make, but we sent the letter to the various city prosecutors and said, you guys investigate and you do whatever you feel is necessary. If that means nothing, that's fine. I've at least, made sure that my position on it, my liability was covered. And so that's what happened. 8 of us signed this letter, and all it was a letter with an allegation of election interference, potential election interference. It is not a criminal referral. As a citizen, we can't file criminal referrals. All we can do is what our bylaws and our platform tell us to do, which is if you see something that could be considered a crime, you should report it.
Right, and I think we agree with you about that. I
Okay.
I had hoped that we would get some calls from those that have a differing point of view, and I think that's only fair. And Kay, we really appreciate you taking the time. I can hear in your voice that you're very passionate and emotional about it, and that I have zero doubt in my mind that you all felt that you did the right thing in this matter. But I also know some of the people on the other side, and I feel that many of them also feel that they've done the right thing. And we've invited them to come on, and I've not seen any of them. And maybe we'll do another show, but we're interested to see what transpires on May 30th.
I just want to share one thing. So
Yes.
before you
Before
cut
me off, Steve, I want
What's that?
to say that before you cut me off, we have to have it said that the process that, we were told it was a Robert's Rules of Order trial. We are rules followers. The 8 of us that were removed, we just wanted the rules to be followed. If they disagreed with it, they should have filed an ethics complaint. There should have been an investigation. All of these steps should have happened, and it should have been an unbiased jury according to Robert's rules. They even quoted they were going to follow Chapter 63. No such thing happened. The same people, and by the way, I have to say this, Mike Terry went around the room and told those executive committee members that I wanted to throw them in jail, and that Laurel and I were going to sue them and wanted to throw them in jail. So that has been out there, and I want people to know that is an absolute lie. That is the farthest thing from the truth. I wrote the letter because I was trying to protect them from getting involved in a liability suit. So it has to be said that that jury pool was completely tainted. Those folks wanted us gone, and then they became our judge, our jury, and our executioner in a kangaroo court that followed no rules, although it was supposed to follow the rules, and there was no quorum. So I had to get that out. I know Monica said it too, but the bottom line is that whole trial needs to be rendered null and void because procedurally it was absolutely not followed. Anyway, thank you for letting me talk.
I just want to speak to that. Like, I want people to know that there's 2 separate issues here. People could believe that you guys really did it to protect the party, or people could believe that it wasn't out of the goodness of your heart. That's not the issue. The issue is how it was handled. So there could be people, if you're watching, you could say, okay, what they did was not right, but you could believe that. But that's a separate issue than how the complaints were dealt with. So people could think that you shouldn't have done it, but they could also realize that it wasn't handled correctly.
Right. That's what I'm getting out of all this for sure. We've got about 10 minutes left, Kay, and we really appreciate you calling. And we see that we have one more caller on the line. I want to make sure that we get to her. And I'll say again, I'm disappointed we did not hear from anyone with a differing point of view. But Kay, thank you very much for calling in.
Appreciate it.
So with that, I think we're gonna, looks like we have Tracy on the line. Dwayne, can you patch Tracy in?
Okay, it's been a busy show. I have Tracy on. Go ahead, Tracy. Fire away, Tracy.
Hi, Tracy.
Hi, Tracy.
Hi, Steve. So thanks for having us, because it has been bringing light to what's been going on. Go ahead, Steve.
I was just going to say, we appreciate you calling in, and I know this has been a horrendous ordeal for you and a lot of other people. And I want to state that, you and I have had a relationship for some time. I think you're a really honest, well-intended person. But I also want to say that there's people on the other side of this that are also well-intended, and we just want to get to the truth, and we want everyone to have an opportunity to speak to this. I'm disappointed that we didn't hear from them, but I want you to give us your perspective on it. And we got about 10 minutes left on our show. So what's going on? What's on your mind?
Well, regardless, like you pointed out, regardless of how you feel, if the letter that was sent in regarding the election interference, the potential election interference, the bylaws were again not followed, and that seems to be what is happening. It's like a pattern through this whole time that Mike Carey has been chair. And Michael Clara spoke to how his election, he wouldn't have had a fair trial because he chose to speak up and have a different opinion. And it is okay to have a different opinion from somebody. It's when you retaliate or start breaking rules to remove people and punish them for them having a different opinion. It reminds me of a mayor that's in Georgia. I think his name was Ron Shinnick. He fired the town's entire 10-person police force because he didn't like a letter that they wrote about his wife still having access to restricted.
Tracy, we're having a little trouble with your audio. Did you do something? There you go. Are you there?
Hear me better?
Yeah, that's a lot better.
Okay. So I was just saying it reminds me of a mayor in Georgia where the mayor fired the entire town 10-person police force because they wrote a letter expressing concerns that his wife retained access to some restricted town files. It's the same thing.
Can I interject there a little bit? I'm going to put you on the spot just a little bit, but you're a big, very smart woman. Not big as in big, but you can handle it, is what I meant. But
yeah.
So it wasn't, in fairness, let's say, it wasn't just Mike Carey. There were several members of the executive committee that agreed with him. So it wasn't one person. There was something that compelled them to vote in the Mike Carey's favor, let's say. Why do you think that happened?
Well, first of all, half of them are appointed by Mike, so they're beholden to him. So there is no like, that's who they're beholden to. That's the same thing as a magistrate judge when you appoint them to a court. The rest of them, I think he fearmongered. And in reality, when you read the actual letter sent to the city, it was about Mike Carey and Chris Knoll because they were the ones that were teaching the executive committee something that they could not do. And that is an actual law that says that you cannot do that in Utah code. So in reality, it was against Chris Knoll and Mike Carey. And so they were angry. And so they brought, in my opinion, they brought the whole election committee with them. And so you think about it.
So in your opinion,
in
your opinion, do you think that they unduly influenced the executive committee and its members in some way?
Yes, I do. I think they taught and told the executive committee something that they could do. And mind you, after this all happened, we had precinct chairs actually reach out and said, hey, we appreciate you even saying anything, because we had members of our party calling and upset with us because the party was getting involved in our municipal race. So people don't like it. It's a nonpartisan for a reason. And the municipalities get to choose. It's the same thing with signature gathering. The point for signature gathering is because there is an elite class and a political class that thinks that their opinion is more important than the voters.
Now, I'd have to agree with you there as it relates to getting a person on the ballot with SB 54. That's exactly why it's there. But it's
Right.
interesting that you equate this particular situation to that as well.
Yeah, so in one of the
Yeah,
races,
because it was against
this
the
happened
Republicans.
after the primary election, and the people already spoke. And it's interesting that the party wanted a small committee of 6 of whom are appointed to make a decision to try to influence the election, even though the people have already spoke.
That
Right.
exactly.
Well, let me ask you, Tracy,
Every one of those.
there's a meeting coming up on May, because just in the interest of time, and I know that there's a lot more to say about this, but this meeting on May 30th, is it the appropriate meeting that should have been called or not? And in either case, what do you expect to come out of this meeting on the 30th?
So the meeting that was called on the 30th, again, the bylaws were violated by Mike Carey. He was supposed to call a separate meeting when the Central Committee asks for that, and it was supposed to be for this issue only.
So-
and anybody that has bylaws, it's the 8 of us that followed it, because in Article 5, Section 3, the number 5 tells the members and encourages them to report any illegal activities to the appropriate authorities. That's what we did, and so we got punished for it.
Well, I get that, but so just going back to the meeting itself on May 30th, it was an agenda item on the overall meeting. This should have been in and of itself a whole separate meeting. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and yes, because the Central Committee is the governing body, and 10% of them called the meeting and requested regarding this issue so they could address the actions of the chair and the executive committee. And yet again, he violated the law and skirted it, or the bylaws, and skirted it to try to make it just an agenda item so he could quickly move past it instead of addressing the issue. And honestly, the Central Committee should focus on the rules. If they are violated, they have a duty to make sure they are corrected, because that's how we get disqualified as a party. Is if we violate our bylaws, we could actually get disqualified as a party and actually put candidates through the convention process.
Okay. What do you want to say to any precinct chairs that are considering coming to this meeting, and what should they expect? If I recall, allotted like a half an hour is all on the 30th meeting. Explain to me what precinct chairs,
Yeah.
why they need to come to this, and what we should expect as an outcome from it.
To me, they should attend and actually, remind the executive committee and the chair that they are the governing body of the party, and that the chair answers to them, and that they're the ones that are supposed to make sure these bylaws are followed. And when they request a meeting, there should have been a meeting, and either extend the time and ask so this is totally vetted and they understand and they are totally informed. I mean, there's a private chat going on right now where people want to have these private conversations. No, we need to talk about it in the open of what happened. And
I agree with you.
when you have a chair that will just violate bylaws like that, you're going to end up with people like Michael Clara. It's not going to stop with Michael Clara. It's going to keep going until someone reminds him that there is a checks and balance, and that is the Central Committee members, and that he
Right.
cannot just continue to violate the rules.
Yeah, well, I agree with you. And again, I know we've got to go. We're over our time, but I think that there is a differing viewpoint, as I've said numerous times, and I've really said that to in hopes get someone with that different viewpoint to come on and express their views, because I know that some of them are listening right now, and this was a good opportunity for them to express their views. I want to be fair, and I know Sarah does too, to this issue. And Tracy, you know, I admire you. I know Sarah does. And is there anything else that before we sign off that you want to add to this?
No, I appreciate you guys having this, and yeah, I wish the others would have actually participated too, because that is what the whole point is everybody deserves due process. Everybody deserves a fair review. And, you know, the 8 of us didn't get it. And so who's next? And that's all we're asking for. So thanks again for having this.
Well, thank you so much
Thank you,
for coming
Tracy.
on, and you know, it'll be interesting to see how all this plays out for sure. So thank you, Tracy. You have a good day. And Sarah, I think that was a really good show.
Yes,
Don't you?
that was great. Yeah. So for my closing statement, I just want to say, like, this whole thing with weaponizing the ethics committee, and this person's making a complaint on them and they're making a complaint on whoever, like, this is divisive. And when I ran to be the vice chair, I wanted to unite the party. And it's not going to, we can't unite if we keep weaponizing the ethics committee or
Right.
making complaints. Like, we need to all work together, move past it. And that's what I would love to see. I'm hoping that will happen on the 30th, where we could just forgive each other and focus
all for
on these
that.
elections. So
I'm all for that. For everybody that's listening, I totally agree with Sarah. Blessed is the peacemaker, for they shall inherit the earth. And we need to start acting like that as a party, because we're self-destructing. I know there's a lot of us that are ready to leave the party. We're that disenfranchised by all the things that are going on. And I would ask everyone to step up to the plate, be forgiving. Let's see if we can find a way to bring the party together and move on as a much stronger party. And we want to thank KMMU for allowing this podcast to go forward. There's other great podcasts on here, to include The Goud Crowd. Trent has a show. There's Lori Gagan has a show on health and wellness, among many others. So tell your friends about it, kmmu.org, and on YouTube and Rumble, KMMU. So with that, we are going to sign off, and thank you all for tuning in.
thanks for watching. See you next time.
Bye-bye.